Philadelphia is the fifth largest city in the United States and home to 1.5 million people. Since October of 2010, nearly 15,000 refugees have been resettled in Pennsylvania. In the city of Philadelphia, there are 3 refugee resettlement agencies, one of which is Bethany Christian Services. Bethany Christian Services works in collaboration with local churches, volunteers, and service providers to ensure refugees have a smooth transition to America.
Yes, I'm Todd Miller. I'm with Bethany Christian Services, and I am the Assistant Program Director in charge of Refugee Resettlement Programs. So we work with refugees ahead of arrival. Like we'll have about a 2-week notice on average ahead of their arrival of the exact date that they'll be arriving, and then we need to find a place for them to stay. We need to get all of the things into that home that they need. So beds, furniture, tableware. Everything that you need to live here in the country, we have to get in the home. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't have to look great, but it does have to meet their basic needs.
Bethany Christian Services accepts around 500 refugees annually into their resettlement program. Once a refugee is accepted, they are met at the airport by a Bethany worker. Later, they are taken to receive a social security card and other documents they may need. The refugee and their families are given 2 12-hour ESL courses and knowledge on how to use public transportation. The refugees are given money to pay for their first 3 months of rent and are taken to apply for jobs so they can become more self-sufficient.
There are some refugees who come from cities that may be very similar standard of living to our lives here. Other refugees may have lived in a rural refugee camp, living in tents from the day they were born, because the average refugee lives in the refugee camp for around 17 years. Some it might be less than that, some it might be 30 years that they've live in a refugee camp. So there are many times you have people who their whole life they've lived in refugee camps. And so if it's someone from that situation, then they're going to need a lot of help learning how to adjust to life in the United States.
Todd described a story about a woman and her family who were resettled by Bethany Christian Services. Once they arrived to America, Bethany helped the family become comfortable with their new lifestyle. The family is incredibly thankful for the help received, and they now volunteer for Bethany Christian Services, giving advice for new-coming refugees.
In the best of times, funding for refugees is pretty limited. It's our caseworkers have to work really hard at not very high pay to meet the needs of the refugees that come. But we just had to lay off a lot of staff because our funding is based on the number of people we serve. So we don't know how many people are going to be coming. So we lay off staff. Now the latest is that a judge put on hold that order, and so we're going to get some arrivals over the next few weeks, we hope. But are we going to be staffed appropriate for the number of people we'll be receiving? So that all makes it challenging.
President Trump has recently signed an executive order suspending refugee resettlement for 120 days. This has affected Bethany Christian Services and other resettlement agencies in the area.
It's because of the funding issues right now. Bethany is in need of funds to keep the program going, and also we want to, if there is a pause in arrivals, we want to really use this time to build on, to build up the program as far as our ability to meet clients' needs as fully as possible. We really don't know whether there'll be a 120-day pause or not, but it really causes instability. And
for more information on how you can help Bethany Christian Services, please visit bethany.org.